ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are live in the majestic city of Cape Town, South Africa, attending one of the biggest power, energy, and water events on the continent. And right now, I am joined by Mr. Mwelwa from Financial Insight, and we're just going to talk a little bit about the changes that are going on in industry and what you as a young person should be knowing moving forward. So, Mr. Mwelwa, please do take it away.
No, thank you so much, Verona, and thank you so much for having me on your wonderful platform. Obviously, we met earlier on in the day, and it was just nice to meet young people that are so keen about water and energy. A little bit about what I do. Obviously, I lead a team called the Media Machine, Financial Insight. It's a media company that's based in Zambia, but with presence in South Africa as well. So we specialize in covering the big major conferences. So from Mining Indaba, Energy Indaba, and Enlit, by coincidence, is our first. This is our debut, event. And so it's been lots of fun. It is day 2 that we get to connect.
All right.
And by the way, I was also a UCT graduate as well.
Real?
Yes. Yeah. I was there 2002 to 2004. So yeah. That makes me a dinosaur a little bit, yeah.
Somewhat,
Somewhat, yeah. So, but when it comes to looking at some of the trends that you guys need to be mindful of, I think depending on what sort of major you're looking into. I mean, obviously, in relation to events like this, I'm thinking electrical engineering, computer science. There's a lot of changes that have happened in the industry over the last 10 years. I think I would say part of the transformation has been fueled by the lack of energy within the region. I think if I look at Zambia, there's been power deficits. South Africa has also gone through its own episodes of load shedding. And you're still trying to knock off some of those adverse effects. But
yes,
it's like with every crisis, it does present an opportunity. And I think, especially for young people, it is important that you pay attention to some of the challenges that are ongoing in a particular sector, because they actually speak to some of the innovations or transitions that certain professions would actually have. So for example, for the energy sector, and we spoke about this earlier when we first met.
Correct.
What I've noticed is that there's a shift from a sort of traditional in the field mostly type of engineer to more sit down, desktop, because you've got all this technology that allows for you to automate. And then there's also the advent of AI as well, which is allowing the likes of yourselves to actually build all these models from within the office, whereas before you literally have to have a circuit board.
It's correct.
Exactly, yeah. In the lab, and you build it from the ground up. So technology has obviously played a huge role. And yes,
changing the way
it is. And I think even the job structures themselves are also evolving. So I would encourage young people to, get to, be interested in a lot of the emerging trends. AI obviously right now is a big push, and don't just look at it from ChatGPT, use it like Google. No, but actually use it as a learning aid, as well as, like a working assistant, as it were, because we're seeing a lot of that, being deployed. I'll give an example of some of the trends, for example, in the power sector, where you had your traditional company that would actually be one that generates and maybe transmits electricity. Now, over transmission lines. Now what we're seeing is that because of technology, there's new types of companies that are coming on board at the sort of user level layer, rather, where, you can actually set up a company that does power trading. Where
maybe just for the user to understand and have context about this, what are the sort of layers?
Okay. So when you think about, for example, and I am using electricity supply industry as a benchmark, because we are at an energy water event. When you think about the value chain itself, it starts from your generation. So this could be your solar generation, thermal, nuclear, wind, technology. So that's where the more mechanical aspects of how energy now gets generated.
Correct.
Then, that energy once produced has to be moved around. So this is where, your transmission layer comes in, where it moves from base where it's been generated
Yes.
to like the end home user. A lot of things are going on there. Now, through the next layer after that is actually the distribution, how that power actually gets into the different homes. So that's where utilities, for example, even at the water level, these are the guys that are making sure that the likes of you and myself have
Yes.
access to that resource, which is energy or water. But from a commercial angle, yes, there is money that's obviously being made at that distribution level, taking power directly to the likes of yourself. But in a time of a crisis, what has now actually happened is that there's obviously been generation poverty on the one end, where the old generators have not been producing enough, or maybe due to drought, their capacity has been impacted, where generation capacity has been lowered.
Yes.
So what to do? Enter now the power traders. What the power traders have done, because they're free men and women of the city, they could go and buy power literally from anywhere in the world and be able to deliver it to a grid and through their various complex models. But what that has obviously done is that it's now created this marketplace where literally you and I could literally like have a generator at home,
Okay.
and be able to participate in the supply of electricity.
So as an end user, primarily consuming power from Eskom, but because I have this generator,
Correct.
I'm able to supply electricity to the grid.
Correct.
Sell it to someone.
Correct. Yeah,
my
correct.
goodness.
And the power trade is actually enabling that. So what we're beginning to see now is a situation where there's more like I'll call it like the democratization of energy, where obviously and it has to have been backed with regulation. So governments across the region have obviously been kind of like updating the rules of the game. So meaning that it has now opened up a space where they've realized that national utilities alone cannot meet that sort of demand as it's been going. You've got a young, vibrant African population who has huge energy demands. Industries are growing. So the power traders now have come in to kind of like be an aid to that. So you can imagine with the advent of these guys, it means that there's a new sort of skill set that's actually required. So traditionally, these are things that maybe when you're doing your electrical engineering degree, you don't really have like an aspect of that in the program. But I wouldn't say it's nothing new in terms of concepts, but in terms of the novelty of the idea and what it brings to the whole space, does make it something that young people should really be looking into.
Wow.
Yeah, so that you can actually tap into that and choose that as a possible career path. But I mean, all of this has been enabled by technology, as it were.
The sense of it, it's really
Absolutely.
technology thing. Nah?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So it's we're seeing a lot more penetration of these. You call them electricity traders.
Yes, power traders. Yes,
Power traders
yes.
that are entering the market,
Yeah.
buying and selling this. One could imagine that this might be likened to how markets work in finance.
Yes.
How you'd be.
It's somewhat similar. In fact, one guy described it, though that's not. But I would actually call it, it's like trading on Wall Street, as it were. But then, if you have to borrow the analogy of markets such as that, it actually has spurred up innovation in terms of how solutions are found. And by the way, I mean, look, if you're going to add more electrons,
Yes.
we're now having to think of innovative ways of actually financing the development of some of these energy projects. So bringing on board players like that, what we've observed is that it's actually enabled the opening up of, the thinking around how some of these projects actually get financed. And, we're actually seeing evidence of some players actually also being part of the solution in terms of, being able to also participate in the three layers that I talked about: generation, transmission, and distribution, to also increase capacity of, the energy that actually gets, provided.
Also, the power traders aren't necessarily limiting themselves to purely trading. They're also starting to participate in developing infrastructure.
100%. And I think that is the only way we have it sustainable, because at the end of the day, I mean, obviously the resources are limited, but the demand will always be going up. So whereas it does introduce now, and again, like I said, more innovative ways in which they can finance, because when these guys bring on board their books in terms of how they're performing, that can also be part of the conversation of how the financing structure can be tailored in order for projects to be delivered.
Oh my goodness, we're witnessing so many changes that are happening within the power industry. Things are changing, guys. Things are changing. And like Mwelwa is telling us right now, we need to be keeping up with what's going on in the world. Mwelwa, where can the people find you on the socials?
Well, socials, please do visit Financial Insight. So we're available on X, TikTok, Instagram, and obviously the flagship website, www.financialinsight.africa, as well as LinkedIn and our Facebook platforms.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's stay informed and let's make this continent great. Thank you so much.